Okay, so let's talk about how to be a media darling. Because the point of this is not to land one story. It's to become a journalist's best friend so that they call you and they feature you again and again and again. So how do we do that? First and foremost, when a journalist reaches out to you, finally, yay, respond immediately. Literally drop everything you are doing to respond. Okay, journalists in today's world are always on deadline. Even if they're working on a story that's not going to run for a year from now, they're still on a deadline for it. They need to know that you're interested in working with them. So even if that means you're out and you're at a conference and you don't have the access to the information that you need to get them, but you see that the email came through, just respond and say, hey, I got your email. I'm actually not at my computer right now, but as soon as I'm back, I'll get you that information. Just let them know that you got their email, because so often people don't respond to emails from journalists and the journalists move on. If they don't hear back from you within a matter of hours, they're going to call someone else because they've got to fill that spot in their story. Don't let that be you who loses out on that front page opportunity. I've seen it happen because you didn't call them back in time, okay? So no matter what, call back and let them know you're working on it. And with that, you always want to underpromise and overdeliver. So if you know in your head, I'm not going to be back in the office until 3 o'clock today, so I'm not going to be able to get it to you until at least 4, you know what? Tell the journalist, hey, I'm really tied up today. Would it be okay if I get you that information by tomorrow morning? Because you know what? Things happen. You might wind up back in the office and there's another fire you have to put out and you don't have time to send the journalist the information tonight. But at least you gave yourself a little bit of cushion to get it to them tomorrow morning. Okay, what you never want to happen is to promise a journalist, I'll get back to you in 2 hours, and then 6 hours have gone by and you still haven't called them back. They're sitting there literally waiting to hear from you because you told them you were going to get back to them. The way to become a media person's best friend is to tell them when you're going to do something and do it 3 hours sooner. Always do it sooner rather than later for a journalist, because then they will know that you're reliable and you're going to help them out in a pinch. The other policy that I tend to have with journalists is say yes, no matter what. When a journalist calls me and says, yes, I want to come visit, can I come tomorrow? Or, hey, can I get into that restaurant? I know that, you can't get in for 3 weeks. My answer is always yes. And then I will hang up the phone and have a small panic attack and think, how am I going to accomplish that? But we will figure it out. You're so much better off to say yes than to say no. Because when you say no, it just puts up a wall for a journalist that says, I'm not willing to bend over backwards for you. But if you say yes and then panic and figure it out behind the scenes, it oftentimes is going to play out just fine. And again, that journalist is going to think, wow, she went over and above to really help me out here. I'm going to go over and above to help her out on the back end. I hear from a lot of people that they'll send out a pitch to a journalist and then hear nothing back. They'll send what they thought was a perfect on-topic pitch and got nothing in response. And so they just assume that the journalist isn't interested, and that's that, and it goes away. I can tell you that 90% of the stories that we land are because we sent a follow-up email. And the follow-up email is short. It's not over the top, it's not anything long, but it just says, hey, wanted to see if you were interested in what we pitched you about. Here's a little bit of new information that I didn't send you in the first time. Here's our website again. Let me know. And I get more responses than not that say, thank you so much for following up. I didn't see your initial email. Well, they may or may not have seen it. That's up for grabs. But they may have seen it with 500 other emails at the same time and it just got lost in the shuffle. But don't assume that a journalist isn't interested in the information that you sent them just because you sent it once and got no response. If you've sent it 4 times and gotten no response, it's time to assume that they're not interested. You don't want to bombard them with the same information. You might need to approach it differently. You might need to find something new and different or seasonal or timely. But don't always assume just because you got no response that it's a no. If you get a no, it's a no. It's time to move on and find a different way to approach them or find somebody else. But if you get no response, then go ahead and send that follow-up email. It's very possible you went to spam the first time. It's very possible they just missed your email entirely. So don't take that as a no. Okay, there's a couple of ways for a journalist to know that you've never actually worked with a journalist before. First and foremost, don't ask to see a story before it runs. Okay, it's your job as the communications person to be communicating with the journalist. And that means that you're getting the story straight. So if the story comes out and you read it and say, they missed entirely what I was trying to say, It's not the journalist's fault, okay? That's your fault. So you've got to trust the process. You've got to trust the interview, the spokesperson that you've elected, the way that you're pitching the story, and know that you're getting your point across. You cannot read the story before it comes out. Again, we're not doing breaking news. We're not doing damage control here. This is features media. They're not out to get you. They're not going to do anything damaging to your business. So there's a chance that the journalist might reach out to you and say, hey, will you look this over for me and make sure I got everything right? Absolutely go ahead and do that. Do not use that as an opportunity to take a red pen to everything they've done. At that point, you're just looking for factual errors. If the phone number is wrong, if the website's wrong, if a number is wrong. But otherwise, let it go. And when the story hits, unless there is an error that is actually damaging to your business, let it go. Okay, the first thing I will do when a story hits, especially online, is click on the website that they've linked to. If the website link is wrong or broken, I will go back to a journalist and ask them to change it, because that's an easy fix. But if there are facts in the story that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things that are wrong, if they talked about the CEO of the company and said the CEO is from New York and he's actually from Boston, does anyone care except for the CEO? Probably not. Does it matter for the bottom line of your business? Probably not. So you know what? Don't nitpick it. It's not worth it. And if you want to have a relationship with this journalist, let it go. Don't even ever mention it. It's not worth it in the end. It's just going to put a little poke in their side and a little thorn in their side and a little red flag to them that says, don't work with this person again. Not worth it. You don't want to be that person. You want to be the person that's super easy to work with, that's always appreciative. And on that note, send a thank you note. I can't tell you how much people value a simple handwritten thank you note. I actually got a phone call from a producer from NBC Nightly News, the national network, saying thank you for the thank you note. I can't tell you the last time he probably got a thank you note. But when possible, go ahead and get a physical address and send something in the mail. You can even send a small gift if you want to. We will do that for national media as well. We'll send a little token of appreciation just because no one says thank you. People treat media opportunities like they're expected, like they should have told your story. But if you go over and above, people will remember you and then they will call you again. The last thing I want you to do to be a true media darling, if you have an opportunity to go on national or local television, you must rehearse beforehand. There are no takebacks on national television. Okay, you don't get to say, oh wait, can I do that over? Oh, the time is up, let me do that over. When the lights go on and the camera light is red, it's happening fast. It's a whirlwind around you. And the reporters are asking questions and then they get sidetracked and they go off topic and everybody's laughing and having a good time. And the next thing you know, your 2 minutes is up and you didn't say anything that you wanted to say, okay? Or worst case scenario, you think you've got this, you've talked to people before, you're good in front of an audience, and the lights go on and the camera goes on and you are a deer in headlights. That can't happen. First and foremost, that can't happen because it's terrible for your business, but you're never going to get invited back on television ever again. And the point of going on television is to get invited back. If you're a chef, wouldn't it be great to have a regular TV segment on your local network? Wouldn't it be great to get invited back to the Today Show time and time again? So make sure you rehearse. And I mean full-blown, stand up in front of a mirror knowing exactly what you want to say. If you're going to do a cooking demo, then you need to have the bowls in front of you and practice what it is that you're cooking over and over and over again until the point that you feel ridiculous, but that it's so rehearsed that it comes naturally. And that way there, when the segment starts to go in another direction and the reporters start to laugh about something and they're not really paying attention, you can get it back on track. You can be sure that whatever the reason was that you went on TV that day, you are getting that point across. You want to secretly have ownership of the segment. Even though the producers and the reporters are the ones in control, you secretly want to be in control of that segment. So you can let them ask you the questions, but you want to have the ability to ultimately steer the segment in the direction you want it to go. And the only way that you can do that is having rehearsed enough to the point that it doesn't seem rehearsed and that you know exactly what you want to say at the very end of it. So, your worksheet for today is creating the follow-up that you're going to send to the media. This should be different than the pitch that you sent, but short, sweet, and to the point.